All right, guys. So welcome everybody. Today we have Pryor and Risë Severson Kasmirski.
Close enough.
Okay. Today they are presenting Authentic Leadership, Creating a Soul-Filling Life That You Desire through development of the spirit, body, mind at work. Accessing your life through self-awareness and learning how to shift your mindset. We're very excited to have them here today. Anne's going to be doing a live painting. We're all very excited. I'm just going to let you guys take it away.
Okay, thanks so much, Will and Amanda. Lori's around the corner. And so, friends, we'll move to the next slide, Will. Thanks for joining us today. As you know, Risë is a career coach and an expert in career development. And I'm normally a LinkedIn, and I'm here today to share with you authentic leadership and what we've learned in the past few years through after-death communication. Next slide, please. And so today our intention for you is to learn how to access your own life force through self-awareness. And we're going to move you through some exercises today to help us shift our mindset and focus our intention on balance, well-being, and choice, and share with you a little bit about Lovitude, what love and gratitude is, and how it can help us be resilient and see all kinds of possibilities. So that's a big cake to bake today, and so we're going to do it and share with you in a short amount of time. As we move forward, Will. So you guys, what is life force? Life force is really the force that gives something vitality and strength. It's this spirit or the energy that animates living things, right? It's our soul or our essence that's within us. Honestly, we are really souls in human bodies. And so we need to access that force within us. And so we're going to share with you some tips on how we work through that today.
And I think part of the challenge of life force is our brains want to get in the way and do what we think we need to do and create from our brains. And really it's about finding that place deep inside of us. So we're going to be looking at that.
And Will's turning our slides so gracefully today, which we appreciate. So leveraging life force at work to create the life and work you desire. How do we go about doing that? Friends, you're all business owners. You're here with office centers. We're business owners. We're members of office centers as well. And we're talking about now engaging our mind, our heart, and our soul. And usually at work, we don't talk about heart and soul. And we do. Risë and I do, and we use heart and soul in all of our works. And when we connect with people, we're talking about an attitude of generosity with action. So you can be generous, but if you don't act on it, then it's energy out there that's wonderful. And what is the action that you manifest going forward? And then the intention starts with unconditional love. And wow, isn't that difficult in these times right now, right? So if you're not aware, how do you even know if you're unconditionally loving or not? Well, I sure know when I'm not, I'll tell you that. So as we move forward, Risë?
So this is the lifting up leadership model that Anne and I and our business partner, Kathleen Crandall, designed about 6 or 7 years ago. And we brought several leaders through this process. But you see there's 7 interacting circles. And in the center of the circle is Lovitude, love and gratitude. And Anne will talk much more about that in a bit. And then there are circles all around that are part of how do we lift up others, and it starts with lifting up ourselves. And so that's what we bring to the workplace. So you'll see on the left side of the screen, yes, left side of the screen, that there's mindfulness, awareness, vulnerability, intent. And we're going to talk about those aspects of the model today. And through that and becoming aware of what we're bringing out to the world, things shift, people shift, organizations shift. So we're going to start with looking at mindfulness.
So as you move forward, one more time, thanks, Will. Mindfulness is becoming present. It's the power of now, right? Eckhart Tolle. It's being in the present moment. And a way to get there is through meditation. And how many of you meditate, right? So I began meditating when I was 27 years old. That's a long time ago. And then I forgot, and now I meditate again. And I've carved out a space. And meditating starts with breathing. And so we're going to do that today. A meditation is a mindfulness state of presence. So as you move to the next slide, Will, I
just want to add to that quickly. In the state of presence and quietness, when we get to that place, that's where we begin to tap into what's going on inside of us. Things we're thinking about, which we actually try to get out of the way so we can get to that deeper life force place in us.
We're going to tell you what happened because of that with us. And let's just do a quick exercise right now, okay? I know we're probably eating and we're distracting and you've got your phone, but I would like you to join us just for a second here. And on the screen,
For a
you
minute,
see,
actually.
yeah, for 1 minute, we're going to feel, notice, and be. And I would like you to close your eyes if you don't mind. So I'm going to close my eyes. And I would like us just to breathe. And I would like you to just breathe in at your own pace. And now breathe out. And when you breathe in, if you could try to breathe through your belly. So bring it all the way down to your core, the breath. And then release it. You're just going to slowly breathe for a minute. Okay, friends, open your eyes. Can anyone just open their mic and tell us how that was for you? What shifted? Amy?
Much more peaceful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Deb, anything that came to mind?
Peaceful is the word that comes to mind for me as well.
Hey, Ann, this is Lee Space. I think for me, it's just this sense of calming.
This is Deb, and it's calming for me too. Just what I needed.
And this is another Deb, and that was what came to mind for me also. So thank you.
Anybody else?
I almost felt weight lifted off my shoulders. I felt less pushed, maybe.
Yeah, Amanda felt less pushed. So, friends, I was driving here on the way from my home in Minnetonka. I just done another webinar. I was like really, anxious. And in the car, I just shifted my mindset to breathe and smile. So when I breathe that way, I smile, and that shifts the energy and the muscles. And so that's a place of how to get to presence and mindfulness. So I'm going to invite you to practice that a couple times a day. I know we've got the Calm app that you can turn on, and it will just ping you to remember to breathe.
So I think too, for me, when we do this exercise, I feel like I'm going into myself, like I'm being pulled down, which is maybe why they call that grounding, right? It gets us to a different place than our chattering minds.
Yeah, thank you. Well, so friends, this may be kind of a deep, but just letting you know that I studied with Jim Self for the past 33 years. And he has a course called Mastering Alchemy. And through his work, he's found that there are 7 layers of thought. And I'm just going to run these by you today. And you can quickly see which layer of thought sometimes you're in. So the first layer is speak without any consideration of what you're saying. And this also means you're judging people or a situation. It could be gossip. It could be, I should have done this or I didn't do that. Those kinds of things in that first layer. The second layer is when you argue with yourself or argue in your mind with somebody else. My husband should have remembered my birthday, right? Or she should have called me because she knew I was ill. Or that person should have done this. So it's that arguing. You've experienced that. The third layer of thought is where we're usually at during the day. And that's, I got to fix this. There's a problem to solve. I have to make this happen. That's the third dimension. And that's normally where we're at. And then there's the pondering. And that's the daydreaming. And that's the relaxing. And that would be saying to yourself, or even out loud, that's interesting. So, for instance, somebody says something to you, you should meet this person. And then somebody else says, you should meet this person. And you say, well, that's interesting. It's starting to notice and ponder what's going on. And I know that during COVID time, being at home with more downtime, I'm pondering more. Now, some of us with kids at home and lots of action, perhaps we don't have time to ponder, but that's the fourth level. And then there's the level of allowing and trusting. So when you watch me paint, or when Risë wrote her book, we allowed the messages to come through, and we trusted that what came through was what we were supposed to have. So has anybody been in these 2 states? Pondering, allowing, and trusting. The 7th one, I have to tell you that I don't experience enough, or there really are no words to even describe it. It's a oneness. It's a transformation that you see the sunset or the sunrise and you feel a part of it. Have you ever experienced something like that? It's a oneness. So those are the 7 layers of thought to just even be aware of which layer of thought am I in.
And just thinking about COVID and what's going on out there, it's sort of giving all of us an opportunity to have universal thought. Like, we're not just in this ourselves. It's everywhere. It goes out and out and out and out. And there's so much creativity that's percolating because of it. People looking beyond the way they've always done things to a new way.
As we move forward, we'll go to this quick story Risë wanted to share.
So maybe you've seen this picture because we're moving from mindfulness now into awareness. And we walk through the world believing we're this individual person with our own agenda. Maybe you saw this. I believe there's a YouTube video about this. This young woman was practicing the national anthem at her college, and she had the camera people there. And so she was standing outside singing away, and a man came up who was a professional opera singer, and he signaled to the camera people that he was going to join in. And he started singing. It's just absolutely beautiful. And that's an example of, she spreads her awareness, and instead of seeing him being an obstacle, he blends. And imagine what that's like in the work that we all do each day, if rather than looking at, there's your customer, there's your client, and I'm over here, what if we look for opportunities to blend?
Check it out.
Yeah. So awareness is the next piece of our bubble. And so I have a little example of kind of 3 levels of awareness to think about. Imagine you're safely on an airplane right now, COVID-free airplane. And you get up and you're trying to get all of your luggage together and you're just totally occupied with yourself. And then you see somebody that's a friend of yours in the aisle and you start talking. Then that's that second level where you're aware of your surroundings, you're aware of who you're connecting with. But now people are all backing up behind you because you're so into that one conversation. So imagine then to be able to spread your awareness. Now you're aware of yourself, your friend, and everybody around you. And that is the source and the place of creativity and life force. So we have a little experiment for you that Anne's going to describe on our next slide.
So you perhaps have seen Magic Eyes. Well, this is one of my paintings. It's called Hummingbird, except it's dimensionalized in 3 dimensions. So as far as awareness goes, sometimes there's depth that you can't see behind the scenes, right? So if you could please move your eyes to the screen, and if you would look at this painting in soft eyes. In other words, sort of squint your eyes and get in close, and now pull back and see if you can see the image that will pop out of you inside of this magic eye. So sometimes it's helpful if you visualize 2 black dots, an inch apart at the very top of the magic eye, and focus on those 2 black dots. In other words, you're blurring your focus. And when you do that, see if you can see the image. Can you see it, Risë, today?
I can't, but I'm going to look a little more.
So friends, there is a very large heart in the middle of this image. And sometimes people can see 2 hearts when they pull back enough and ponder, right? And allow. So there is great depth in this 3-dimensional world that we can't often see. And we have experienced it firsthand. And I'm sure some of you have as well. So this PowerPoint will be on my LinkedIn profile for the next 24 hours, and you can take a look at it. It will be on Risë's too. So we'll move forward to the next dimension, vulnerability.
Vulnerability. Oh, isn't this vulnerable times for everybody? One of the assets of leadership, authentic leadership, is that willingness to be vulnerable. And we are all being vulnerable because we're doing a lot of our meetings through Skype and through Zoom, and cats are running around the background. Kids are barking. They might be by now, right? Kids are making noise and so on, and we're kind of being forced to expose more of ourselves. And as a business owner, if you have clients and customers, there's such a temptation to think that I have to be perfect all the time, and I have to be on time for everything and have no excuses. But it's that vulnerability that makes a connection happen. So a quick example, there were 2 times when I worked in organizations that were going through some real struggles. And in one instance, the executive leader was so afraid to address the employees. And when he got on stage to talk about what was going on in the company, he left no room for questions. And he went through his PowerPoint and he talked about this is how it is. And the message kind of was, I need to be in control, right? He is in control, CEO. And then, so the people left that meeting and they were discouraged, and it didn't do anything for them really. In the second example, I worked in a large corporation that was going through major downsizing. It was horrible. And the CEO called everybody together, and we sat in the room, and the CEO took off his coat, sat on the edge of a chair and said, ask me anything you want. If I don't have the answers, I will tell you truthfully that I don't. I'll give you any information you want. And the excitement in that room, even though the message wasn't that great, the excitement in the room of people feeling connected really made a difference.
Yeah. Okay, thank you, Risa. We'll move on to the next slide. So at the center of the model is lovitude. And lovitude means love and gratitude inspired by spirit. And this is the symbol that perhaps you've seen on materials and around my neck and Risa often. But there's an L for love and a G for gratitude and a dot for the spirit. And you notice it's on a Buddha board. A Buddha board is like an etch-a-sketch that you paint on. Well, very quickly in 2005, I was getting my master's degree in holistic health, well-being, and human development. Risa has a similar degree in coaching. And I was meditating in the desert of Palm Springs on a Buddha board. And this image drew out of me with water. And normally an image evaporates into the air off a Buddha board. This image did not evaporate. And so I wrote the image on a napkin and I took it to Janelle Russell. She created the mother and child pendant. She's my good friend. She lives in St. Paul. Actually, she lives in heaven now. She's gone. She died 3 years ago. And so she jeweled this for me on all kinds of things. And so I wanted to know more about love and gratitude. Next slide. So during this time, I studied with Dr. Emoto. Dr. Emoto was in the movie, What the Bleep Do You Know? And he wrote the book, The Hidden Messages of Water. He hired a photographer to take water samples from all over the world, freeze them, thaw them, and take pictures of them. So if you even go Google him, you will see a video of water that he's written Hate and Kill on, and the same water, let's say from the Mississippi River, he wrote Love and Gratitude. The Love and Gratitude water would show this kind of a crystal. The Hate and Kill actually showed a guy holding a gun inside the water. Well, I was very intrigued with this. I met him a number of times when he'd been in Minneapolis, and I had to do my own experiment. So I said, Dr. Emoto, how would I do the experiment? Next slide. And so he said, Ann, just take 2 cups of cooked rice. You see, rice is 90% water, just like our bodies. And so, guys, I can't cook. I'm really lousy. So I went to Mandarin Yang over in Minnetonka and I got 4 cups of cooked rice. I put 2 in one container, wrote the Lovitude symbol, and 2 in another container. I set them on either side of my sink, the same sunlight. I picked up the one with the Lovitude and I said, you're beautiful. I love your nutritional value and your color. Thank you. The one on the right, I just dissed. I said, you're ugly. I hate you.
Which was hard for me.
Yeah. Within 5 days, this rice was turning black on the right. And in 30 days, this is what the rice looked like. So please have your children try this simple experiment and you're going to be able to see what your thoughts do to water. And we're all water. And so, friends, I tried to change the black rice back and I couldn't. So I realized I needed to change my thoughts going forward. And that was a huge aha for me in 2005. So that's when presence set in. So if my thoughts can do this to water, imagine what it does to people that I diss on the street or what have you. So as we move forward, so this is what the love and gratitude crystal looked like. And because I was so infatuated with it, I wanted to create this symbol and it came together in lovitude. As we move forward,
Now we're ready to paint.
we're going to show you again
Trim this off.
what happened. I'll just move this over here. Risa, you're going to start telling a story and I'm going to get undressed and dressed. Okay? So I've never undressed in front of people.
No,
before.
but you're doing a fine job of it.
Yeah. Okay. So, yeah. Okay.
So Anne is going to be painting, and what she has found when she's painting is that it's a free-flowing process that comes from deep within herself, and so it's kind of tough for her to be having a conversation while she's painting because she's focusing. But I'm going to tell you a little story about how Lovitude paintings came to be. So This story starts almost 5 years ago now with the death of our good friend her name was Irene, and she died suddenly. She was told that she had stage 4 lung cancer, never smoked in her life. And within just a few weeks, she went from hospital to hospice to heaven. And in that time, because we were colleagues, Ann and I would go visit her and talk to her. And Ann actually, unbeknownst to me, 3 times went in and asked her when she was in hospice if she would please communicate with us from the other side. So she's kind of old that way. So what happened is she passed away in December, and so I was giving a eulogy at her funeral, and that's the first time I saw her. And by saw her, I mean, I was standing at the podium, and there she was in the congregation, looking back and smiling in her white turtleneck and her red hair. And I thought, oh my goodness, I must be hallucinating or having a hard time with grief. So what happened then is for the next 3 months, I would feel her presence around me all the time. Felt like she was sitting in the car with me. I'd see her in a crowd of people, and I wanted to tell everybody, look, Irene's over there, but I didn't want to sound crazy, so I kind of kept that to myself. After 3 months, she began coming to me in intense dreams. And at the same time, I was going through a meditation program like we've been talking about earlier in our presentation. So I was already used to focusing in internally. And when she started coming in dreams, I started recording everything that she said to me. And the dreams, I can still verbatim tell you what they were like years later. But in the first dream, she was standing right in front of me. And I said, oh my gosh, do you know you're dead? And she said, yes. And I gave her a big hug, and I could feel her warm body in my dream, which is a sign of lucid dreaming. So for a year, I kept journals, and over time, she would wake me up in the middle of the night, and I would take my journal, go sit on my big green chair, shut my eyes, and write whatever she said. One day I wrote, you woke me up in the middle of the night, what's going on up there? And she said, Risë, I'm not up there, I'm right next to you. So after a year of receiving these kinds of messages, which I would share with Ann as my business partner, and we missed our friends, after a year, I decided, you know what, this is crazy. I have all these journals, and maybe I should write a book, but I don't know if it was my mind making this all up. So I decided that I would call a medium. And maybe some of you know what a medium is, a person who can connect with spirits that are not here. So I didn't have very high expectations, but I called the medium, and the medium said, oh, your friend with the long red hair is here and she wants to talk to you. And for an hour, she communicated to me that, yes, I should write the book. Yes, I should say everything that she would say, because I knew her for 20 years. And so I called Ann up right away. I said, Ann, you won't believe it. Irene came. She told me I should turn these journals into books. And Ann said, well, maybe I'll call the same medium, because I want to connect with my Aunt Carol, who died a few years ago. So 3 weeks later, Ann called the same medium, and the medium said, you're not going to believe this, but there's a woman here to talk to you, and she was just here to talk to somebody else 3 weeks ago. And it was Irene. And Irene told Ann, though Ann will tell you she's not an artist, Irene said, now you're going to start painting on big sheets of plastic, and you're going to use peacock colored inks, and you're going to use a straw to blow the ink, and your work is going to be everywhere, and you're going to resurrect lovitude. And so Ann, who said she's not an artist, had no idea what Irene was talking about and wasn't going to do a thing about it because she didn't know what to do with it. So 3 months went by and no paintings from Ann. And then one day Ann said, look, there's something in my cell phone. It says on March 31st, 7:30 in the morning, new life opportunity. And are we going to a conference? Because I didn't put that there. We decided, no, we weren't going to a conference. And the next thing, She calls me the next morning and says, I erased it and it's on my cell phone again. So in the course of that month, all of her clients who were scheduled for March 30th canceled, and she started finding out more about these inks, and she got some big paper, and on March 30th, she started painting. Today, there's over 1,800 Longitude Soul paintings. They are all around the world. They are on many different products. Maybe some of you own some of the products that they are on. They are all based on love and gratitude. So Anne says when she first started painting, she tried just blowing the paint across the page and almost passed out. Yeah, so that doesn't work. But in the meantime, I'm continuing to journal with my friend Irene, who's giving me messages to tell Anne. So one of the messages was, infuse the gold, it's in the signature. So you'll notice there's always gold. Use essential oils. So Anne just determines, we'll talk about that in a minute, Anne, how she determines what oils are gonna be used at essential oils. And then over time, Irene started saying, the souls are lined up to be blown through the art. Think about that. The souls are lined up to be blown through the art. And so we believe that this is all comes from spirit, all comes from life force, which we've been talking about today. That part of you that surrenders to what needs to come through in your creativity and in your leadership. This is beautiful, by the way, not to be distracted during that. I really love that. So, Anne, maybe, I don't know if you can talk, but maybe you can tell us a little bit about how you choose the colors and how you choose the oils.
So before I came this morning, I just take a few minutes, right, to center myself and meditate and get present, which is really the fourth and the fifth situation that I talked about before. And then I have 144 different aurosoma oils that I was led to purchase. They were created by a woman in England. They all have a meaning, and every color has a meaning. And so I chose the colors today, which it's not ironic at all. So the color blue is communication, and it's trust and truth. And orange happens to be energy. And so I was not even going to bring that today. I'm going to a photographer afterward. But so that's behind us to speak truth energetically through spirit, through God, right? Through energy. And so I choose the oil that I see in the audience, in my mind's eye, what they're looking for. And then the paint comes through based on the energy that I feel in the audience. So it's very interesting always to me when I take a step back, because when I'm done with the piece, I get two names that usually come through to me. And the colors represent usually someone that's on the call or in the audience. So Risë, you might want to tell them some stories about some of the audience, what happened when.
So Anne and I have been all sorts of places, including in the meat market at Kowalski's,
Mayo Clinic.
Mayo Clinic, at conferences, the International Near-Death Studies Conference. So we've exhibited in many places. Irene told me in my writing when I asked, what do we do with all this? What do we do with these paintings? And she says, gather them in circles, which is what we're doing today with you all. Gather them in circles. It's not about the book and it's not about the art. It's about what opens up in another when they see this and hear this. So what is being tapped in you? So when we are in audiences, we will often ask, what kinds of symbols and signs are you getting from your loved ones who have passed that are helping you? And people have all kinds of stories. A woman talked about she loved her grandma so much. When her grandma was alive, she always wore that old perfume called Charlie. Maybe some of you know that. It was years ago. And she said, whenever she's feeling down, she'll smell the smell around her. So maybe, and even when she moved into her new apartment, she walked in and it smelled like Charlie. So maybe you have similar experiences, and you might think about all of the helpers in the spirit world, the angels, the archangels, your ancestors, who have all come and want to help you in your creativity. I have heard that there's more guidance in the afterlife from the angels and the spirits than there are people who ask. So be sure to ask for guidance. Yeah.
This is kind of interesting to me because usually I don't paint in even numbers. And so I just keep getting, this is an even number today, meaning number of flowers, and 4 is about activation and about remaining positive in your thoughts. So the messages, that come through, these pieces, and the gold is just splashing out here. Maybe you can see it. I don't want to get anything on the table.
Or on me.
On you, yeah. Okay, so, and then purple is, one of the highest colors to tune into spirit. So aqua is a color of unity, and it's connectedness and oneness. And I don't recall ever painting with such aqua. So, Lori holds this space of oneness and unity with highest intention. So I'm not surprised that something like this would come out, and then something like that would come out, which is just absolute whimsy and beautiful, fun people.
I want to talk for a minute about healing breath. I don't know if you can zoom on this. I guess we have a slide of this later in the presentation. I'm giving you a photography challenge. So you see, this is healing breath, and this was inspired by a friend of Anne's whose nephew was dying, and she asked Anne if Anne could just get centered and paint something. And out of Anne came Healing Breath, which is my all-time favorite. Healing Breath now hangs in Mayo Clinic. Healing Breath, when you think of the times we are in right now with COVID, which is all about breath, with the Black Lives Matter movement and all that happens surrounding the breath, it is time that we bring love and gratitude through our breath out into the world.
That was well said. So do you want to open this up right now or not?
Yeah, I'm dying to know what kind of questions are coming up for you guys, or insights, or perhaps somebody in our audience is looking at that picture and it's reminding them of one of their relatives. So we would like to hear.
Anybody out there? Hello?
Lori said that she sees butterflies for her mom. My grandma, who she loved butterflies, and every time we see a butterfly, it reminds us of her.
Oh.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
It does look like butterflies.
Does anybody else have anything that they want to add?
Or a question that you have about the art? Go ahead, Doug.
Go ahead.
Rachel says purple and green are her favorite colors. So there you go.
If you're
The
in
purple is just beautiful.
Beautiful.
And I can't thank you enough. This has just been so fascinating. And I have a story because when we first met, it was back when I had gotten my cancer diagnosis. And it was really funny because you brought me water, if you remember. You brought me some water that you had. Was it a water that you had sourced from Lourdes?
It was from Lourdes. My mom had given it to me, yes.
So you brought me some water from Lourdes, and we talked about the rice experiment and putting myself in the right mind space to begin my cancer journey, which was, chemo and radiation. I had stage 4 head and neck cancer. And we talked about what positive things we could bring to our own selves. And that same day that you brought me that water, and I wasn't sure that the water that you gave me from Lourdes, another person sat me down and told me the same story. Someone that you did not even know about the water and gave me the book with the man and the rice and whatever it was. When I got home that night, a friend of mine, I had a box come. It was a UPS box, came from New York. It was a $78 overnight package. I opened up, it was a bottle of Poland Springs water. And I thought, who's sending me water? And she said that she had put it out because she's very religious. She put the water out and it was the ascension passed over or whatever it was. And she had these waters and knew that I needed the water for my healing. 3 people in one day. And this is not a lie. I have chills on my arms just even thinking about it. And I knew I was going to be okay.
That really
Like I
is
said, and we didn't even know each other. You barely knew me and brought me that message and that water. And then another person gave me the book, and then I got another bottle of water. That's the craziest story.
Yeah. And then what did you realize? What did you do?
Well, you know, I approached my cancer therapies very differently as far as keeping a very positive mind, living for the day, not overthinking, not Googling, just trying to be grateful, to become, so many people struggled because I had to wear a big heavy mask that they bolted me to a table, and it was a really frightening situation. And I just thought, I'm going to become one with this mask and be at peace and count backwards and just say, I have 60 days. I have 59 days. I have 58. And so I tried to keep, and you know what? I had a really good experience. Like I said, cancer was not the worst thing that ever happened to me, I say, in my life. It made me more cognizant of who I am and the awareness of life and people and gratitude. And because I'm, been single for a long time, didn't have any kids, you wonder who really cares about me. And sometimes I get in that thing because I don't have the same kind of family units and ties and everything else. And it just showed how many people care. Now, I'm way off into the thing. So too much information, but I just had to share it with you. And I'm right outside your door too. I'm here at Minnetonka, outside the door.
Lori, and I think because of your willingness to pay attention to, those are really startling events that happened to you, but to pay attention to that, you were meant to pay attention to that synchronicity, because look at what you just shared now with all of us who might tell your story to somebody else who's suffering and going through hard times. So
yeah, it's beautiful, Lori. And you practiced all of the things we're already saying. You became present, right? You listened to what was going on. You noticed. You said, oh, that's interesting. And you shifted your mindset. You're a very positive person anyway, so perhaps you would approach it that way. But look at what happened. Wonderful things. And so many people care about you. Oh my gosh, you light up my life on Facebook.
And Will is nodding.
Yeah, Will, he's got tears in his eyes here when you told the story about Grandma and beyond. So just, so that's what this one looks like.
And I have a story that I'd like to just recall quickly about when a meeting that you and I had. It was when we were doing when we were putting together the bags for the homeless at International Plaza.
Yeah.
And we were all there and everybody was sitting around a table and we were writing out cards to put in these bags, and you had some of your Levitude things with you. You had some scarves and some cards, and we were all looking through them. And you said to me that you would like to give me a scarf. And I was looking through the scarves, and this was in October, and I was looking through the scarves, and you pulled one of them out and you said, this one seems to be something that I think you would like. And I looked at it and it was beautiful. And I said, yes, I love that. And she said, well, you can take that one. And then you said to me, that's called a gift from Mom. I name all of my paintings. And at that point, it was my first birthday without my mother. It was in October. And when you gave me that scarf, it was just so moving.
Yeah, that's spirit. Thank you, Lee. That's spirit working through, guys. And when you're an open channel, you know, when we open up to what you're just saying and you allow, it comes through and it touches you. Like Lee, you're just being so touched, but you allowed the gift to come through as well and you accepted the gift. So mom was grateful too.
I still use that scarf today when I'm really feeling down and missing her. I'll put the scarf on and just sit by myself, and I know that I feel her presence. I know she's with me. And I don't know if I ever properly thanked you, Ann, but it's just one of the best gifts I've ever received.
Thank you, Lee. And I'll thank mom for giving me the insight to give it to you.
You know, and we are people, you just heard my sister, we sound like we have the same voice, but we are people who, you know, believe in voodoo types of things. You know, these are things that we've really felt, we've experienced ourselves, and have opened our minds to new types of opportunities. So, you know, I said, it's a good thing. It's a really good thing.
You have some great
Tune into the community, right?
Okay, so just 1 second. Great.
And we have a slide after that.
Yeah,
Talk about
10
the
minutes
process,
left.
yeah.
Okay, well, maybe we can get to them at the end, or would you like me to do them now?
Let's hear.
Okay, Lori, thank you for that. That's what happens. People shift. And notice you were at a vulnerable time, right? You allowed yourself. You were going through cancer. Lee was going through her mom's passing. So it's a time when we can open ourselves up. And this is a vulnerable time in the world. So it's time to open ourselves up.
Okay, so
Well-
just a couple of comments that we've received here that I think are really, really great. April Johnson said, I'm crying, I have goosebumps, and goosebumps are always positive affirmations. Ina Tobak said, thank you, it's a very refreshing presentation, especially nice to hear and know other people speaks from their heart and soul. There's no such thing as a simple coincidence. Everything is interconnected. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. Amy, who's a longtime friend of Office Center, says, thank you, and my heart and soul are beating with emotions while watching you paint. Much love and gratitude to the both of you, for everyone here. And then Denise Morlock says, this has been amazing. Thank you, Ann and Risa. Thank you, Lori, Lee, and others for sharing your stories. Love and gratitude to you all.
We have a great audience.
Yeah,
Thank you
all
for
of
reading
our
those,
beautiful
Will.
friends, thank you.
Can you bring up the next slide first now? We'll kind of talk about a process that came to Ann in a dream, of course, on how to access the spirit world.
There's got to be lots going on in your room at night, Ann, while you're dreaming all these things.
Yes.
Keep a notebook real handy, right?
And when I meditate, and yes, I have a notebook handy.
Yeah. So you want to talk about the 5 A's?
So, you know, when this came to me, basically it's called the 5 A's. It's very simple. The first A is be willing to ask. So remember when Risa gave you the story of Irene? I was willing to be vulnerable to ask Irene, hey, when you go wherever you're going to go, whatever you're going to do, I know spirit does not die. Please come back to me. And she said, you know, Annie, I just don't believe in that. And I said, it doesn't matter. I'm willing. I'm asking. So be willing to ask for what it is you want to get that connection, because there's spirit around that will help you and are here to help you.
And spirit cannot come in unless we ask. So we hear all the time people say, you know, my grandma died and I love my grandma, but she never comes around. And then we say, well, ask for her. Ask for a sign, you know, ask, will you hear a voice? Will you see a penny and it reminds you of grandma? Yeah. Ask.
The next step is you have to allow the information to come through. So the information came through and I allowed it when I heard Irene say you're going to paint on plastic and blow with your breath, but I didn't do anything with it. So the third step is I have to accept that I can do this. So I needed to allow, and just like Lori allowed the message of the water, she accepted that people love her, that she is loved by God, by all of us, Spirit, we're all together. She accepted that, and that heals, right? So then I accepted that, yeah, I'll try to do this. And then we're appreciating it. So we're coming out and being vulnerable and talking about this after death communications and spirit and whatever you call the divine, God, spirit, it doesn't matter. It's all love, and to appreciate it. And that's what we're bringing forth is our joy and appreciation. And then the last piece is to act. So if I had this gift, if Risë had the gift of writing and we never did anything with it, that would not be right. So you all have gifts and we need to bring the gifts forward. So this is our simple 5-step process. Okay.
So, next slide. Thank you. So what happened because of your painting?
Yeah, we'll go back to the one previous. So here's what happened. I started being vulnerable, as you guys know, on LinkedIn, and I would put messages on the art. And when I did that, my friend Janet Sparkman, whom I used to work with at Carlson, called me and said, this work is just stunning. I want you to connect with Molly Bewer from Hallmark, who used to work with me at Carlson. And I said, oh, Janet, well, that would be fine. So I'm allowing, right? I'm not pushing anymore. I know I'm being guided. Did you hear that? We're being guided, okay? So flow. So I said, Janet, if it works out, that would be fine. So Molly calls, she's gonna be in town from Hallmark, and she comes to our studio, Risë's there, and she said, Ann, you need to be on the Hallmark channel, and I'm on the board, and I'll connect you with the president, Bill, and he'll be calling you. And I was like, well, okay, Spirit, if this is what you want, well, I'll show up. And so Bill calls, and he said, Ann, I want to know more about this. Molly is raving about it. Could you be on the Hallmark channel in April? I said, oh, Bill, that would be wonderful, but could we do it in July? You see, I needed to lose 10 pounds before I was going to be on TV. So he said, no, we insist that you're here in April. So Risë and I hop a plane, and we go to the Hallmark channel, and here's what you're seeing. And I'm with Cameron Matheson, and he's the nicest, most handsome man. You know, he was on All My Children, which I used to watch. And so we painted together, and amazing, amazing things happened. Millions of people watched, and our product sent that out to all these places.
And what was it, Ann, about his painting that you noticed that was different? Yes.
So, you know, movie stars are quite, I don't know, sensitive, I guess. So first of all, I cannot teach how to paint. I just do. And so they wanted me to teach Cameron how to paint. So I said, Cameron, just make a container. And the container I'd like you to just make is a heart. And so he takes blue and he starts making a blue heart. And he keeps saying, Ann, how am I doing? How am I doing? And I said, well, you're doing beautiful. I don't judge, right? This is spirit coming through. And at the end, I said, Cameron, that is just stunning. It's very interesting. You chose blue and purple. And he said, oh, no, I made a mistake. A heart is red. I said, you know, it's a perfect color for you. You're a master communicator of good to the world. And purple is the communication, right? Symbol to spirit. And blue is the communication color. And you just can't make a mistake and you can't make it up. And then after we were done, Risë and I went and we celebrated with some homeless friends, which were across the street from the hotel that we were at. So it was really, really a joyful, moving event. But you can't make it up, guys. So when you allow.
And how about the next slide? You can see Ann's trailer.
Yeah, I even had a
Look at that.
with my name on it. And I'll tell you the truth, it was so boring in
It
there.
was boring.
Risë and I went out and we sat by the grips, and all the rest of the folks underneath the tent. We had enjoyable food and we had the best conversation, didn't we?
Yes.
With people just like Lori and Lee are talking about today. It was just very transformative. And the next slide.
Oh, we've talked about this,
Yeah.
healing breath and kind of where that came from.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
So you'll see Healing Breath more. And now, Risë, let's talk
And
about your book.
We will talk about my book. I'm so excited. It takes a long time to write a book. and the book is done, and there's a nice man named Amit in India who's working on the insides of the book right now, so it all lines up right. It is the story of Levitude. It is the story of all of it, and I feel very vulnerable about it because it comes from inside of me and from spirit, and it's who I am. And I think of people that I know in my life who we never talk about these kinds of things, and it makes me feel vulnerable, but it's a gift to the world from Irene.
And when will that come out?
Well, depends on how long it takes, but I'm hoping within the next month or two.
Okay, good. And it will be loaded with Levitude images.
Yes,
too.
that's right. Anne's images everywhere. Yep.
Good. And so as we move to close here, friends, we were just wondering, well, first of all, if you know Feng Shui, this is the Feng Shui model. And the Feng Shui model is to have an intention. And so I'm going to invite you to have an intention for success, what that looks like with you, for you, spirituality, health and well-being, and relationships. And at the center will be, right, your soul, the life force. So for instance, I'm just going to give you an example of my intention for success is, you know, God, Spirit, bring me more money than I can ever spend in this human lifetime and allow me to share it with others. So that's success that I have. And then I say, bring me 2 people today that can help me share Levitude with the world. And here's what happened yesterday. I want to begin selling my original art now, which I haven't done for about 3 years. And I put it out there, and I had a gallery call me yesterday that wants to share my original art for sale. Then a portion of those proceeds will go to homeless and food shelves, etc. So I'd like you to think about the intention in those 4 quadrants. And then the question?
And then the question is, what is one action you might take today to tap into your own life force? Remembering that we've talked about mindfulness and awareness and vulnerability and love and gratitude.
So if anyone would like to comment, that would be great. Otherwise, Will is going to cut us off here in about 30 seconds. So big thanks to Will and Amanda. Big thanks to Lori and Lee for inviting us into your beautiful space, and for you guys to show up today to listen to our story and to share your gifts.
Thank you, Anne. Thank you, Risë. It's so great. This was just wonderful. Wonderful and uplifting to this morning.
Ladies, can you call me? I have a question. Maybe we can take it outside. I put my phone number in the chat. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone.
Thank you for joining us.
Bye-bye.
Everybody.